Hey friends, welcome back to another video. My name's Emma Fave, and it's been about 3 years since I did a floral drills video, and a lot of things have changed since then. Since then, I've developed my own brushes with the company Craftimo. I have two different sets, one of the beginner round brushes and then another set that is specific to florals. And with those sets, they come with different shapes and sizes that are perfect for loose floral painting. So today I am going to do a brand new drills video showing you the absolute basics on how to paint loose florals. Then later this week, I'm going to be going live 2 times where we're just going to sit and paint a bunch of loose florals. I'm going to play around with color palettes, play around with shapes and different flowers, and we're just going to hang out and paint together. So make sure you watch this video first so I can show you all the strokes you need in order to paint these, and then later this week you can join me live or you can watch the replay and we can just paint and chat together. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy today's video. Let's get started. Okay friends, so I'm so excited to do this. This video I did 3 years ago, and since then I have developed my own brush line and different shapes and sizes of brushes. I have learned a whole lot more since I did this video, so I feel like I have a lot more to teach, especially to beginners who may not know exactly what they're doing when it comes to loose florals. So I'm going to go through all the basics of the basic strokes that you want to master any type of loose floral work. So for today, what you're going to need is a piece of paper. I have a piece of scrap paper that I did some flowers on that I'm not going to use for anything, so I'm just using the back. You don't need anything fancy. You're going to need watercolor paints. The paints I'm using today are Shinhan paints. They're from Korea. They're beautiful watercolors. And then I have a variety of different brushes. So if you're a beginner, you may only have like a traditional round brush like this. Mine is well loved. But today I'm going to show you how to use this one again, as well as different shapes to hopefully get you used to and excited for using different brushes, because you can create some really beautiful florals using a filbert brush that's like this, where it's rounded and flat. A dagger brush, which I really enjoy for leaves, and some fun techniques, which I'm going to show you. And then this flat wash brush is probably my favorite for loose florals. I am so surprised that this is my favorite one, but this is almost more so than my round brush. So I'm going to show you different drills to practice with these different shapes. I do have a couple brush sets available on Craftimo. Some of them are going to be coming back in stock, but I know other brands do make these shapes. They are fairly common, so if any of them kind of jump out to you, definitely pick it up and try, because they are so much fun. Okay, so let's just dive in and get started. So I'm going to start with my round brush. And round brushes come in many different sizes. Like here I have a size 12, here I have a size 8. You have really tiny, size 2s. Use whatever one feels comfortable. I'm going to use my size 8 just because my tip is kind of going on my bigger one. And I find it's a good medium size for control. So if you have a size 6 or even a size 10, that works too. And the first thing we're going to do is practicing our pressure strokes by just drawing with the tip of our brush. So make sure you wet up your brush nicely, and you're going to pick any color that you like. I'll just choose Prussian Blue for now. It's nice and dark. And you're just going to practice making strokes using really light pressure with the tip of your brush. So just doing these really light strokes. You can do them on a diagonal like this. You can, practice drawing lines. I tend to use a lot of these kind of strokes where I'm just like, for the center of a flower, just kind of flicking. And then you're going to just slightly start to give a little bit of pressure to get used to what marks your brush makes with different amounts of pressure. So you can just do a slightly bit more and see how I'm not even pressing down hard. See the thick line I'm getting? You can go to the side. And I suggest you do this with all your brushes. you need to get to know your brushes before you start working with them. So applying different amounts of pressure in different ways will help you get to know them. So the reason why I like to practice these small lines is because if I'm doing a rose per se, I like to do this kind of scribbly middle. So almost like a little, not necessarily a spiral. I tend to do these C strokes going around. I don't want it to be a consistent spiral like that. It just looks too uniform and not realistic. So I like to do these little C strokes using the tip of my brush to look like really tightly wound petals. And then when we're doing a rose, which I have shown in the last video, I start to apply a little bit more pressure. So when you're practicing your pressure strokes, your light and then your heavier strokes, also try these strokes where you are applying pressure in the shape of the letter C. So light pressure and then heavy pressure. Okay, and as you lift up, try and go light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure, so you get that nice little point. And these will help you with those C strokes for smaller curved petals. All right, so as we move around this rose, we start to use a bit more pressure for thicker petals. Now, I want you to watch what I'm doing. See how I'm doing these C strokes going around? There's something off by the way I'm doing it. Do you see how much white space and disconnect is between each petal? That you don't want. Imagining a flower, the petals are all connected at the base. There's always one petal touching another. They're not just floating there. So this doesn't look realistic. What I want you to think of when you're doing a rose, we have our little tiny center here, right? So we're doing these little light curves going around tightly wound petals. And as we start to make thicker petals, I want that petal, each stroke, to touch another petal somewhere. See how these ones are all disconnected and they're not touching any other petal? I'm going to do a curve here, but I'm going to make sure that curve is touching another area. So that is touching here. Here, I'm going to go that. It's touching that petal there. And this next one, touching that petal, that petal, that petal. And then it looks like it's more connected. And then while you're doing that, you just keep going around. Okay, making sure that it's touching another petal somewhere while leaving these little bits of white space to show there's some highlight, to show there's a little bit of separation, but they're not completely disconnected. And then you just keep going around. Your pressure strokes are going to start to get heavier, so they're thicker. And you can practice this just on your own without doing the flower. Really heavy pressure to see what kind of strokes you can get. You know, do some larger ones. Again, try the light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure, and you're pushing down to the belly of the brush, which is like the center, the biggest part. Okay, and you're just going to keep going around to get these thicker, and they're going to be a bit shorter too, shorter petals. And you have this rose shape. So keep in mind, you don't want the disconnect where the petals aren't touching anything. You want them to touch at least another petal somewhere, hopefully two, but also make sure to have that white space. You don't want to end up with a blob where you're doing these strokes and there's no white space and there's no separation. Because then you're like, where's the flower? Where's the petal? And it just doesn't look as realistic. So that's the basics of a rose. I've done this in a few videos you can always look back to. But that's our first flower using our round brush. So you can use a round brush for any flower. If you want to take a look back at the other video where I do the whole video with this brush, you can definitely do that. But now I want to get into some other brushes for these drills because they're a lot of fun. Okay, so the first one I'm going to take a look at is this filbert brush. The filbert brush is a great brush because it's already rounded, kind of like the shape of a petal, and it's flat. So you get a nice kind of thick wide area with a nice round edge to give you that automatic petal look. So with any new brush, you are going to pick a color and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to practice your pressure strokes. So you can do light pressure. So because I have it on its flat belly, you're going to get these, even though I'm doing light pressure, you're going to get these thicker lines. You can try heavier pressure, make them a bit bigger. And then you can try it on its side. So you're turning it to the flat side and get your really nice thin lines like that. And you can add some more pressure and get some thicker lines as well. Any new brush, you want to play around, okay? Now, the one way I love to use this brush is slightly on an angle. So when I'm doing a petal, I don't like to use it flat like this and then lift off. It just looks too rigid for me. You want it to have a little bit of curve and movement. So what I actually like to do, instead of holding it flat here, I like to tilt it on its side a bit, apply heavy pressure, and then slowly lift to get a point. And it gives you that nice, perfect petal shape. Okay, so you're doing that same kind of heavy to light pressure. So heavy pressure. And then I almost kind of curve my brush a bit. See how I'm turning it? And lift. And it gives you this petal shape. Now you can go flat like this and then lift off, or you can, to make it a little bit thinner, go on its side a bit more and make it a thinner petal. I tend to like that a bit more. And you're just going to keep practicing that. You're going to go heavy pressure, light pressure, heavy pressure, and almost like a flick at the end, light pressure. All right, so that's one single petal, and that's really great for chrysanthemums or sunflowers or daisies, this kind of petal shape. So imagine there's a center of a flower here, and you just fill it up with these tiny little petal shapes, and you just go around, around. Some can be thicker. And it's good to practice the curve both ways. See, I find it hard to do that. You can always, you know, move your paper around so it feels comfortable. I find it a little harder to go up, but you always want to lead with that flatter part, okay? But it gives you those nice, like kind of perfect daisy petal shapes. All right, and then the next stroke to practice is a combination stroke with two of these. This is how you can get some thicker petals. So you can start with that one where it's slightly on an angle, heavy pressure, light pressure. Then you're going to do it again, touching that one, and you're going to curve in the other way. Heavy pressure, light pressure. And you get this thicker petal. Like that. And it almost has like a little lip at the top, which I really like. And if you look at some petals, they actually look like that. And sometimes that point doesn't always, you know, point the way you want it to. Sometimes it will be a little bit flatter, but this is where you practice. Okay, and they're almost perfect hearts as well. You could actually make perfect hearts with this brush almost. Like that. Okay, so practice the compound stroke. So going one way and then another way. I like to turn it in this way and that way. But whatever feels comfortable to you. There's no right or wrong way to which way to turn it. Whatever ends up making this stroke, whatever way you turn it, you know, maybe you feel more comfortable working backwards or like upside down, or you flick upwards and you can just turn your brush. Whatever works for you is how you're supposed to do it. Okay, whatever feels comfortable. So that's really great for this brush. You can also do some nice little curves, like smaller curves. And this, you really kind of have to twist your brush. Okay. Curving it around. Like so. Now, I do love this brush for florals. It's not my favorite, but it does take a lot of work and practice, but it can produce some really beautiful florals. This also for leaves is quite nice. You can get some nice rounded leaves. So I would go on its side like this to do the stem. And then just, again, using it kind of on an angle. Just doing these simple leaf shapes, using different pressures, different angles, and all that. Okay, it's a lot of fun, but you just got to play. So that is the filbert brush. Definitely fun to practice. Okay, another one that is fun, but also can be tricky, is this dagger. Now this one, I like it. It's not my favorite. I find it a little bit more difficult to use. There are some people that swear by daggers and they just absolutely love working with them. The way I like to use them is one specific stroke. So I'm going to grab some pink here. And a dagger is another flat brush if you turn it to the side, but it's more of an angle. It's not quite an angle brush. Like I'll show you one of my actual angle brushes. So this is an angle brush. So this is a lot more rigid and like straight. The dagger has a slight curve to it, which is a really nice benefit. So the way I like to use it is I will place down the curved side down, tip of my brush touching the paper, and I'm going to slowly move the back of the dagger brush around to get this shape. So I put the tip down, slowly, light pressure, and just move the back of the brush. Then I'm going to go back to the point. The tip's going to touch again, and I'm going to go the other way, back, like that. And you get this really nice, perfect, rounded petal shape. So you can always practice that, which I find is a lot harder to get with other brush shapes. So this is kind of like an effortless rounded petal. So if you want to go, let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you're going to put the tip of your brush on that dot. You're going to go around halfway and come back. Okay. Again, tip to that dot, round, back, around, back, around. Again, you can turn your paper if you need to, if you find your hand is in a weird position. Lastly, around, back. So you get this like perfect little rounded flower shape. So another thing that's really fun with this brush, I'm going to show you to do a dual tone petal. So I'm going to load the back curved part of my brush with this pink. So my paint is nice and wet. Then I'm going to take just the tip and I'm going to put it in my yellow. And watch this. I'm going to do the same kind of thing. Go back. Look at that dual color petal. Now, like I said, this does take practice, kind of manipulate this brush shape, but once you get the hang of it, it's super easy and fun to use. Like, how fun is that? Okay. And you can also do that for leaves. This is actually a really good leaf brush as well. So I'm going to just grab some green. I'm going to do a little line here for the stem. And I like to I don't like to drag it towards me. I like to drag it away. I find, again, this is a brush that you need to play with and see what feels comfortable, because it's going to feel comfortable in different ways to different people. So to get the same kind of shape as this, you can make really beautiful like eucalyptus leaves. Let's get some blue in there just for fun. That's not what I wanted. That's fine. Okay, and I'm going to just put the tip on there, back. Almost like clover leaves. Or blue in this. It's not the right blue. These gray leaves. So like you can get some really cute, almost like eucalyptus shapes. Okay. Again, you might need to turn your paper like that. But it's really nice to use. The other way to make leaves is to practice your light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure stroke, again, like we did up here. So you're gonna go light pressure with the tip down, heavy pressure, and then light back up with the tip being the last part to touch the paper. And you get this other like perfect leaf shape. So again, tip down, heavy pressure, drag just a little bit, and lift. Again, you can make it even thicker by kind of going on an angle. Heavy pressure, make it thicker. Pressure. Try it the other way. It's almost like a square shape. You can make them nice and long, so tip down, drag for a longer period of time, twist it even, and lift. Okay, so the longer you leave your brush down on the paper, the longer the leaf is gonna be. The more narrow you take of a path while dragging it, the more narrow the leaf's gonna be that way too. You can even just put your brush on its flat side, maybe the flat side down, and just do light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure. Same kind of, because if you look at it, it almost looks like a round brush this way. You know, you can try it both ways. I like the flat side better this way. But this is a really fun brush to kind of practice with. So try different ways. This one I'm like almost using on an angle. I'm just kind of drawing sideways. And because of that natural curve of the brush, it creates these perfect leaves. So this is a lot of fun to do those rounder shapes and leaves. So dagger brush, lots of fun. Okay, and then my last brush, which I want to show you, is a flat brush. So I have two flat brushes here. I have this 3/4 flat brush, which is a little bit shorter. It's not shorter, but it's not as long as this one is. But essentially they can do the same thing. I really like this thinner, longer one, just I feel like it's nicer to manipulate, but you can do the same thing with this. So I'm going to show you this first, and then we'll move to that one. You would think that this would not be the most perfect brush for flowers, but it is. So I'm going to start by wetting this up. I'm going to grab some blue. It's going to mess up all my colors, or this lavender color. That doesn't go well. I need to clean my palette really bad. I was going to mix it, but I didn't. Let's use lavender just for fun. Okay, so again, play with your brushes, lay it flat, light pressure, maybe lay it on its side. See what kind of strokes you can make. Okay, put a little bit of pressure on its side, play around with the feeling. Now, when I use this brush, I rarely use it flat to make a petal, because obviously that does not look like a petal. But if you tilt your brush on an angle where only one of the corners is touching the paper, you can get this really nice petal shape. And you curve it and lift off. So it's slightly more geometric in the sense that it's flatter than, say, the filbert, but it still has that flow and movement, so it's not super rigid when you're going on one edge of it. I really like the way this looks. And then I might do like a compound stroke of 2. So again, curve it, light pressure. I like to do 2 of them, and then I'm going to put them together like that. And it just gives you this like perfect petal shape. I absolutely love it, because if you look at a lot of petals, they have this kind of straight edge to some of them. Not straight like this, but straight where you have that little lip, which is really nice. And I just like the look of that better. Like poppies, they have that. Some cosmos, like there's some really beautiful flowers out there, and I just find I love the look of this petal shape the most. So practice, and I don't know why, but I find this the easiest to use. I don't know why, it's easier to get that kind of corner up because it has those corner edges. It's a lot easier when you lift up to get that point rather than the filbert, because there's no actual point on the brush. Okay. Then if you just put it on its actual side, you can get those nice kind of rounded shapes as well, which is great. Okay, so this is definitely one of my favorite brushes for that. It's just so much fun to use. I'm going to show you a quick flower over here using it, so we can make larger petals as well. I'm going to put the corner down, press, drag up. I'm going to meet it back up here, press, drag up. And I tend to work a little bit faster with this brush. I have another petal kind of coming around that side. Petal kind of coming around that side. I use it on its side a lot. I don't know. There's just something about it that I really enjoy, especially for the loose flowers. Like, I'll just show you in comparison to the filbert. You get these similar shapes, but these ones are just a bit like more rounded at the top. And I find lifting off to get that point a little bit harder. But to each their own, and everyone's going to find different brushes perfect for them. I don't know. See how this one just has it has a little bit more structure to it? I don't know. You can let me know in the comments. But either way, super fun to use. And that's what I like to use it for. Also for leaves, you have a little less traditional of a shape when you use this for a leaf. I'd use the corner for our stem here. And then I would use it just that one side. Press down and up, and you just kind of get these longer, rounder shapes like that. But I find they're really fun to try. So with this brush, practice just touching that one corner, down, heavy pressure, light pressure. Okay. And that's it. Those are our drills with our new brushes. This is our drills video for 2024. Haven't done it in a few years, but I feel like I've learned a lot and developed some new styles and new techniques that I really enjoy. So I encourage you to try it with me. If you are watching this video as it has come out, this week I am planning to go live 2 times. So you guys can just hang out with me while I paint and use these brushes. It's going to be very informal. It's not going to be one specific tutorial. I'm just going to be playing around with using these and kind of explaining what I'm doing, coming up with fun color palettes, and just there to answer any questions. So Wednesday and Friday, I will put the dates below. And if you're watching this later than that, you can always watch the replay of the live sessions. I hope you guys enjoyed this drills video with our new brushes, and I will see you in our next tutorial. Have a great day, guys. Thank you all so much for watching my video. I really hope you liked it, and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on all my other platforms for tons more content. Have a wonderful day. See you guys next time. Bye.